we've had a lot of events. Some of you have been there and been at those, and have those taking action, which I think is really more important what we want to do. We don't want to just meet and plan. We want to execute and do. I think everybody in here is itchy for that, right? Everybody wants to see Canada changing and quickly because we're in trouble. We've got Trudeau's taking us straight into the gutter for its helping, and it's happening at municipal, provincial, and federal levels. It's a very organized attack on Canada, and so we see as a reason that we have to go out and take action. We can't stay within our churches, so we're very happy to be here at 2001 Spring Garden, Harvest Church, where I attend. I actually teach Harvest kids in here, so I'm very familiar with the room. But yeah, so we're happy to be here. We want to get into the churches because the churches need to get out of their walls. And so I think everybody here would agree, that's why you're here right now, is that we actually have to hit the streets as Christians and take our faith in action, right? So our works will prove our faith. It's not how we get our faith, but it does show that we are actually being obedient and we are heeding the call to love God, love people. So we will start as we typically do. Oh, yeah. So let's make a note here too. We have a sign-in sheet. So locally, we want everybody to be engaged. So part of this is, and we'll mention at the very end more so, is that we want everybody to be in contact with us and us with you, so that when we actually do have events and things that are happening locally here, that you know where to go, when to go, and to help us, because numbers do matter. As Christians, we don't believe that we have to have the largest army and we're going to win by military might. However, politically speaking, at a practical level, we do need people to represent. And if you don't actually represent, they do call you, well, we have been called the fringe minority, right? But we're actually a silent majority, is the truth. But people have to just kind of, get off the bench, and actually get onto the playing field, the battlefield really is. You'll see some of what we're going to recount here shortly. It's been an exciting few months that we've actually been action for Canada. Selena can attest to that. So the local team is myself, Jeremy Palco as co-lead, you call me Jay, Selena Hamilton, co-lead, and Robin, campaign chair here for schools and for helping us out. And so the three of us have been doing well at getting the message out. So I think the technical term would be comprehensive sexual education.
Yes.
So CSE, sometimes you'll see SOGI, we'll explain that as well. Either way, it's a bunch of woke garbage. We'll just call it that. So, but yeah, we'll start with, just like they do, not we do, but they do, with the land acknowledgement. There's actually another one you're going to see in here, which is rather interesting. I won't spoil it. It's just they just can't stop themselves. It's actually kind of comical. After a while, at first I was offended. I would see some of the crazy that they put out there, what they say about Canada, about us, and after a while I just laughed. I mean, they are a literal joke. I don't think it's wrong to do that because it's just a reality. They're making fools of themselves, and so the more they do it, I don't mind, because the more they get drug out in the sunlight, and sunlight being the best disinfectant, and so all this pressure, all this action that has been taken has actually caused them to be exposed to the public for who they are. And we want all their faces to be known, all their names to be known, about who they are and what they stand for. So today, that's why we have our special guest, Linda Qin. And allies on the Greater Essex County District School Board. You'll see GECDSB, that's Greater Essex County District School Board. And so that's our local public school board, and where we often go at 451 Park Street. It's like a second home. It's a little dysfunctional, but it's a second home. So, but there, anyways, back to what they do at the very beginning. They take 5 minutes. They'll cut our mics, but they'll give all the time to their land acknowledgement. Right, and I always another thing to laugh at, right? Because you're like, well, if you feel so bad about it, then give it back. I dare start. You go first. Show us that you actually feel sorry about this, but they don't. So one day we were talking. I said, well, we should have our own land acknowledgement. So our land acknowledgement is a biblical land acknowledgement.
Very good.
The earth is the Lord, and all is the Lord's, and all its fullness. The world and those who dwell therein. Psalm 24:1. So this is our land acknowledgement. So the idea that Christians don't have dominion anywhere in this world, go to your corner, shut up, be quiet, we completely reject that. Completely. We think as Christians we can go anywhere we want, say anything we want, because we're here representing God. We're not here worried about whether some woke person is going to have to grab a tissue because they feel sorry about what we're saying. We don't apologize for that. So there's, of course, we want to be respectful. These people are in public office as trustees. They are, like I said, public officials. They have been elected. So we need to respect their position. But some of what is said and done, we do not respect because it doesn't respect parents and children, specifically related to the school board. So that's our biblical acknowledgement. So feel free to share that far and wide.
I love that.
And oh yeah, and this is the artwork here. Selena's gotten really good at artificial intelligence, right? So you can actually speak and your words become an image. So she, in her creativity, generated that. I thought that is awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, so powerful and vibrant. So as far as our agenda goes, we have about 9 things on the list. Prayer and introduction. Then we're gonna go into the EDFO, some homeschooling. We'll talk MPAC. There are forms at the back too, just so that you can see what we're referring to, the school boards that exist. There is a special one that we weren't gonna talk about, but I really wanna talk about it. I said no. I'll talk to you after about it. So after we adjourn. So, but then we'll go into the public school board's budget and this JIED, DEI, whatever you want to call it. People call it DEI because it does seem like a fatal thing to do. But it's diversity, equity, inclusion is what they say. They don't practice it, unfortunately, on the school board. We would like to see that happen. There's nothing wrong with diversity, equity, inclusion, but words, as we often see, get hijacked by the left. They take them, they make them their own, they corrupt what is actually good. And that's what they've done. And in doing so, they will villainize and demonize people such as Linda and Nancy, who are just trying to represent their constituents. And they do have constituents, despite what they say. So, yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But, yeah, when we hear DEI, I'll give it to you later on. You can hold on to that one. You'll see there's a photo where I'll share about that. And then advocacy timeline from 22 to 24. So basically what we've been doing for the past little while. So this goes to before Action for Canada. So even at its roots, and you guys might know what happened way back in December of 22 to now. So there's a bit of a timeline there, just so people can see the progression and understand where it's come from, what it's taken to get to this point where it's become very public. Not by our choice, but I mean, you couldn't ask for this kind of publicity. It's just happened. And I think that's a God thing. God's like, I want people to know. So, and then also we have some Q&A for Nancy and Linda, and then a call to action. And then at the end, we can have Q&A and some mingle. So, as with most things we do, we'll open with prayer. So, we just all pray for quickly to get started on the right foot. So, thank you, Lord, for gathering us here today. We thank you for Harvest welcoming us in. Thank you for all the people here in attendance. Thank you for a beautiful day, and pray that you bless all those who may still be on their way. And we pray best the seniors event down the hall. We thank you for how active Harvest is, and so many churches and churches represented here are in our communities. We pray that we would do that all the more. Pray that what we say and do here will glorify you, and what we say and do outside of here would glorify you, and that you would make clear to us your will and your purposes, and that we would obey, and that we would love God, love people, and to just make a difference wherever you put us in our circles of influence. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so love God, love others. So this is what fuels us in a sense. So biblically speaking, we believe the greatest commandment is to love God with our whole heart, soul, and mind and strength. And the second one is like it, to love your neighbors as yourself. And so we believe that. And so part of what established Action for Canada, of course, what was happening over COVID, and there are some other political tensions that were occurring prior to that also helped to raise up Action for Canada across Canada. So we actually have 110 chapters or so across Canada, but with 38 in Ontario. So it's a fairly large organization. There is legal aid. That's where when we talk about notice of liability, there is help in making and generating these types of documents. So it is a large organization. Tanya Gaw is our president. Kim McBride is our chapter coordinator. And then we have local representation as well. You can go online and you can see there's a whole lot of issues on there. But what we just wanted to say here, though, is this is ultimately why we do what we do, is because we've been called as Christians to go and do this. So it's Christian-led. The reason for that is because there has to be consistency across the leadership. There needs to be like-mindedness. They tried to mix it up during COVID, and the tensions within the board, it just, different worldviews. So it's a Christian-led organization, but we welcome everybody in. We're happy that everybody's here. And so I just wanted to make that understood, and that this is why we do what we do. We're not here just to make a political statement. We're not here just to make some noise, rattle some chains. We're here because we believe God has called us to do this, to make a difference in the world. So that is a big part of it. So, but Action for Canada itself, I can read here, we're a grassroots movement. So we're trying to reach millions of Canadians, and we want to unite our voices in opposition. So there's a lot of destructive policies, obviously. We've all seen this. It's happening live. We see it in the news constantly. I think, how could you be that bad? I mean, you can't accidentally be that bad. You have to be that bad on purpose, right? I keep watching. I think, man, you're better off giving a monkey a handful of darts and throwing him at the board to make a decision than have this guy run the country. It's unbelievable. I just sit there and I just chuckle to myself sometimes. I know God's in control. So I think as Christians, first and foremost, we shouldn't worry about what's happening. We should be at times irritated, annoyed, even angry in the right way and apply that. But there's no reason to worry or have any fear of these people whatsoever. But we do believe that, the fabric of this nation is definitely at risk. So we are calling to action. So we have multiple campaigns. We want to educate, equip, and empower citizens to take action. And we're committed to protecting faith, family, and freedom. You guys seen that slogan before, I'm sure. I know I have. Steven has. Certain parties, if you're, and to watch out for this too, there are certain parties who actually do have that as their tagline, and it's a good one, provincially and federally. So as far as the issues go, there's a lot of issues. I'm not sure if there's anything we don't have a shortage of, it's issues. So, but there's abortion and MAID. There's, obviously issues of life are at the top of the list, the sanctity of life. God doesn't want us killing babies. He doesn't want to killing the elderly or anybody in between. The idea that we actually have government-sanctioned killing is disgusting to me. And the reason Christians, because sometimes Christians don't understand why they should actually be bothered by this. The reason you should be bothered by this, they're actually using your money to kill your neighbors. Yes. Like that should bother you. And there's some people, I think they have some seared consciousness toward this. They actually think, well, what's the big deal? What's the big, it's like, well, some people, they just, you do you, I'll do me. And it's like, no, it's not okay. They're using your tax dollars to kill your neighbors. And instead of giving options, like, maybe you've heard in the news in the US, they push for right to try. It's like, why are we jumping right to the, I want to give you a lethal injection, and there's a whole lot of options in between there, and they're like, no, I want to kill you. Like, that's your government, and the lengths they'll go to. There's stories out there of, house calls, house visits to set you up for MAID. I mean, you can't get an MRI in 6 months or a year, but we'll off you. So then we have climate change. We hear plenty of that. Everything, including the flooding of the DVP, the Don Valley Parkway. Climate change. It's like, no, manage your city. This has been happening for decades. But climate change, even Trudeau echoed it. And COVID, disease X, whatever. They're trying. They'll try again. But I think people are much more aware now as to what that is all about. It was really to sell drugs, I would say, in the end. But everybody has their opinion on it. But you can just see, I was like, why do they keep working down in age? I'm like, at some point, they're going to go for the babies. And they actually did. They just kept expanding. They were trying to reach different demographics, and they just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. It's like, I'm okay with good medication, but this is so politicized, and like, why won't you stop? And every day, how many people are sick? How many people are dying? Like, this is awful. So, but in the end, bottom line, that right there is that the Bible commands us to gather as Christians. We can't do Christian living without gathering. That's just the truth. So if your pastor doesn't understand that, hopefully you can help convince them in some way that we do need to gather. And it was actually a small number of pastors who actually got together and helped move the needle here in Ontario. It wasn't like there was a whole crowd. It was a few who said, Doug Ford, you got to change this, or we're going to do something about it. And he did. So politicians check the wind. And so us being here, and like I said, numbers do matter. Government legislation, a lot of that different stuff going around. Of course, we could talk about C11, C18, censorship, all the rest of it. And so part of this message here too is that that's happening across Canada, but it's actually funny how people they're so upset with Trudeau, they're so upset with Ford, or they're whoever the person is who's at the mic or the talking head. But the truth of the matter is we have it right in our own backyard. Within the school board, we have a chairperson, and we have some of the trustees who that's exactly what they want to do. They want to cut your mic, they want to censor you, they want to cancel you, they want to prevent you from doing your job. People who are elected to be representatives. And so it's messed up. And we have political LGBTQ. I think everybody's fully aware of that, what they tried to hijack the month of June. Last year we had the 1 million March for Kids. We'll get more into that a little bit. Immigration, people are obviously okay with people coming to Canada because that's how we all got here in the first place, but it needs to be responsible. What they're doing right now is absolutely reckless, and it's wrong. 15-minute cities, more to come on that, and then WF, globalism. I mean, like I said, the coordinated attack that has been around the world, I mean, it's something that we should all take note of and be aware of and realize that it's not just a small or just a few here and there. If you don't actually, like, effectively, they're just one big bully. If you don't actually push back against the bully just keeps pushing back against you. So that's at some point, you have to strike back. It's just the way that it is. So that's actually for Canada. And right now we're going to transition into Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario. So yeah, I guess we can welcome up Robin, and she will share with me.
Put it in my bag, and then I put my bag in the car. Okay, so how do I click this?
Oh.
Sorry. Last time they had a clicker, somebody clicked it for me. I'm not very tech savvy.
Either.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, my name is Robin Gannam, and I got introduced to this through COVID. I found Action for Canada, looking for what the heck was going on with COVID. I've never ever believed it from the beginning. I've always been a part of natural health, and I understood that something was really off right away, especially when they distanced the children, they 6 feet apart. The whole agenda I knew was wrong. So I started searching, and I came up with Action for Canada, and they were talking about your local school boards, about the masks and everything for the children. And so I got into that. And through that, I got introduced to a presentation as I started to watch their Greater Sussex County meetings. And Patsy Kopis, a couple of years back, did a presentation on what's going on in the schools, and I almost barfed. I was so upset. I cried. I was angry. I had no idea that was going on in the schools. And so I said, I need to know more. I have 6 grandchildren in this system. I need to know more what's going on. My kids obviously didn't know what was going on either. And because they keep it so secretive, And so I started going to the school board, and I started investigating, and I started learning, and I said, I need to get involved. I'm going to lose my mind because I'm screaming and I want to jump at the mountaintops, and I just want to say, parents, wake up. So I want to say, first of all, I want to say thank you for showing up today, but not for this meeting, but you showed up for the children. It's not about this meeting. It's about the children. So people tell me that I used to be nice, loving, kind, caring, compassionate. And what's happened to you used to be a lot of fun. Now it's I'm a bigot, I'm a hater, I'm phobic. I need to be tolerant, affirming, accepting, inclusive. Anybody hear that? Right? So none of us, especially as Christians, want to be called names. It doesn't feel good. We don't like it. We don't want to be called names. We certainly do not want to be called haters when we love. But we are doing this in love. And this is how Jeremy said, how they take these words and they make them and they turn them evil. So we all know this is a good versus evil battle. This is a battle against our children. It's a complete, it's just a battle against our kids. So these words that everybody's using against us are a complete polar opposite. Would you agree? Tolerant, affirming, bigot, hater, compared to kind, loving, understanding. Those words are complete polar opposite, but against everything Jesus commanded us to be. Jesus says, be kind, caring, loving, truthful. Honor your mother and your father. Not tell them lies and keep secrets from your parents. Against it, right against everything. So I'm not concerned with what man says of me. Jesus said, if you follow me, they will hate you because they hated me first. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with what they call me. I'm not offended by it. I actually kind of use it as a badge of honor because it means I'm doing the right thing. I've been in the right place at the same time. Does everybody agree with that? Yeah. So if we're being called names and people are getting afraid of being called names and being called criticized, take it as a badge of honor and tell people that means that you're doing the right thing and you're on the right road. So I want to say right away too that you don't have to be Christian, okay? Of course we are all Christians, and it's very important that we follow God and the Lord. We understand that, but the bottom line here is that most parents love their children, and they want the best thing for their children, regardless if they're Christian or not. We're fighting for the children. That's the thing we need to remember. So that's what this is all about. So I want to show you that this slide here, okay? And this is an actual book put out by the Teachers Federation, okay, which is the union, okay? Teachers Federation of Ontario. This is the book that they want to use. They want the teachers to use. If you read this book, you would throw up of what they are bringing to the schools this year in the Greater Essex County District Schools. So positive space, positive place. And then this underneath of it, education toolkit. That's just an oxymoron right there. That's not positive place, positive space. Do we love everybody? Yes. Do we judge everybody? No. It's not our job to judge them. But we can no longer stand in this and be, like Jeremy said, bullied by them and be quiet because they want us to be quiet. The only reason they're winning is because we're letting them. We are letting them win because we're not making our voice louder than theirs. That's the only reason they're winning. So this is what part of this book is. Under the umbrella, they're going to teach the kids transgender, agender, queer gender, trans man, trans woman, gender fluid. How many want to throw up right now? Imagine, I showed this to my daughter-in-law yesterday. And she said, she goes, I don't even want to see it. It's so disgusting. It makes me want to throw up. I said, yeah, me too. That's the reason why you need to speak up. How do you think your 4-year-old is handling this? Like, get mad already. Would you get mad already? I'm so angry at people that look at the size of this room only, seriously. It's crazy, but thank you for being here. So this is what they want to teach the kids. This is the little gender muffin. Click it.
Yeah, click, press enter.
There we go.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Oh,
I didn't know how to use that thing, but the gender dysphoria, the gender muffin, gender is the mind. Now think about that. As a Christian even, or anybody, your soul is what? Our mind, our will, our emotions. So they're trying to change their mind. They're trying to convince their mind of what they want them to do and think, how to behave. Everything from the mind. Attraction is in the heart. Attraction, that's spirit, that's God, that's love. That's not attraction. That is not attraction. That is love. Sex in the body. This is your assigned sex. This is your assigned sex. This is your sex. It's not assigned. God gave it to you. God made you perfectly. He knit you together in your mother's womb. You were fearfully and wonderfully made. Period. End of story. Boy and girl. I laughed. Somebody said there was a study now, gender studies in university. I never knew that was actually an accredited course. I said, I can teach that. Boys have penises, girls have vaginas. Done. Here's your certificate. It's that simple. Here's your diploma. It's that simple. But the fact that we're not fighting back and going, no, this is wrong. Something's really wrong. People in universities send their kids to university, come home and say they came back a complete idiot. They're appalled by the way their kids are coming home. It's just disgraceful. Okay. Oh, yeah, next slide. That would be me. Okay. So here, I'm going to show you this here. This is Selena put this together wonderfully. But these are books, okay? You can see right here, Greater Essex County District School Board. If you go through them, and it tells you the age group of the children. People say this isn't real, okay? It tells you the age group of the children. It tells you what schools these books are in and where they're available. The thing that we have to really realize is, even if your school's not listed here, teachers, I have a very close friend that's a teacher and educates me a lot about what teachers can and can't do. Teachers can bring in books and anything they desire that will help to get the agenda and the message across. So don't, if it's not on here, your school's not on here, trust me, they're still doing it. I don't know if you're aware that Amherstburg this year, for Pride Month, Amherstburg had a kindergarten classroom, and every part of their Pride flag, this is cisgender, this is that gender, this is that gender, this is that gender. And that's what the kindergarten children had to learn, the parts of that flag. What about the flags around the world, maybe? What about those? What about real? And by the way, our kids failed the testing in mathematics. They got in the 40s. That's how we tested. Our kids are being failed big time in school. So anyways, back to my thing here. King and king, right? You can see there that's listed. Okay? When the queen insists that the prince get married and take over the king as king, the search for a suitable mate does not return as expected. The prince meets and rejects half a dozen of princesses, but falls in love with the prince. They are married and rule a kingdom together. Excuse me, I just have to grab my water. A little hyper here. Serious? Like I make fun of it because I have to. I laugh because I have to, but so they fall in love and they get married and they rule the kingdom together. This is for kindergarten to grade 3. Wow. You didn't find a suitable female, so marry a male and rule the kingdom. Okay, Tango Makes 3 is a book recommended by the education. And by the way, this is a union. This is nobody that understands children or anybody else, through a union. Paid for with union dues, promoting this stuff and making the teachers bring this into the schools. Okay, at a New York City Central Park Zoo, 2 male penguins fall in love. Start a family by taking turns sitting on an abandoned egg until it hatches. Okay, like Jeremy said, of course that sounds really nice. Oh, isn't that great? We're taking in the little orphans and we're taking care of them. But that's how they're going to explain it to the children. It's great because we have to love all and nurture all. No, we're not doing that. We're saying, no, we're not doing that. And by the way, like I always say to people, if you take a look at nature, that's all you have to do. Males don't mate with males in nature. They don't get sex transplants or whatever they call it. Changes, right? Look at nature. What's nature doing? They're happy. They're bountiful. They multiply. It's simple. Look at nature. Don't look at 2 penguins tangled. Tangle the penguin. Oh, honestly, don't look at the 2 penguins, kids. But this book, if you guys have a chance to look at this book, I'm going to tell you that you will be absolutely appalled. In the back, there's printed resource suggestions for the teachers, the primary grades, the junior grades, the intermediate grades. What really bothers me is primary, junior, intermediate. That's all children. None of them are legal adults that should be making a decision. The parents never authorized this. The parents never said it was okay that you teach this to my child. It's a parent's job to teach the child. Would you agree? Yes. It's not the school board's job, the school's job to teach the children. So homeschooling. Okay, so this all comes, is everybody familiar with the actionforcanada.com website? Action 4, number 4, Canada.com website. This all comes from their website. So this is just one that I picked. They have many, but about homeschooling. So people that want to homeschool, but they have a lot of different resources regarding homeschooling. How, if it's legal, how to go about it, how to start a homeschool. Convention. A lot of things that are out of our, like for sure out of my knowledge base. So there's a membership, okay, for, like I said, just $19 a month. So with that, I'm gonna wrap up. I'm gonna wrap up with a couple of things. On August 28th, 2022, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, accompanied by the Minister for Women and Gender Equity, okay, they plan on investing, as if it's the government that's doing such a great thing, but it's our tax dollars. We all know that, correct? It's our tax dollars. They're investing $100 million for operational, following the 6 objectives related to inclusion and supporting the 2S LGBTQI++ communities in the country. $100 million to promote it. And they're using words that are really strange, like support Indigenous 2S LGBTQ, resilience and resurgence. Resurgence. Why would you support resurgence? So you're promoting it. Let's go further. Embed 2S LGBTQ issues in the work of the government of Canada. And we all know what embed means. That's a pretty big, strong word. Embed. It means put it in there, make people follow it. I have a friend that works in Windsor for the federal government. They all got notified when we did our March There for Children to go down to the riverfront and counter-protest the parents. The federal government paid them. She responded with my union dues. You're paying people with the union, the union, the workers' union. So it's the unions that are ahead of all this, United Nations, the school board union. So I just want to close with this. Let me ask you, is the information I just shared with you kind, caring, loving, truthful? Yes. Not what they're doing. It's not. This information is not. Or is it child abuse? And most importantly, opening up children to the devil and stealing the children's joy, innocence, identity, and destiny. Yes. Is that it? Yes. That's what it is. It's a demonic agenda trying to steal our children. And they're in a full-on assault against our children in many areas, not just this, in many areas. Most important battle. This is the most important battle. I feel right at this time that we must rise up for and be a voice for our children. As Jeremy said, we need to take it to the grassroots. When we leave here, we need to do something. Okay? If all people who sat in church every Sunday came to school board meetings, and this is where I get really ticked. I know a lot of people here that belong to different churches and different places, Christians, but not only Christians, all parents, but Christians especially, because God tells us to fight against it. God tells us to rise up, protect the children. We are not to be silent in this matter. If all Christians that sat in churches every Sunday, and let me tell you, I'm going to use the word pissed because I'm pissed. If every Christian came out to a school board meeting, if every Christian was in here that sat in that church and those four walls every Sunday came out to this, guess what? It would be over. Amen. It would be over. So please, that's how I'm going to end it, because if you feel like strongly like I do, please don't go home and roll over and go back to sleep. I'm glad you're here. That's why you're here, because you didn't roll over and go back to sleep. You decided to show up. But please promote to the people that we cannot roll over. The only reason they're winning, the only reason this is still in the schools is because we're letting it. End of story. If you showed up, this would be over. So it's time to rise up, take it to the grassroots. all month in the schools. I mean, grassroots, this is what I did. And I'm not bragging on myself. All I'm saying is we have to do something. I didn't know what else to do. When that flag went up on that flagpole, I was ticked. I said, I am not going to let the children, because the school board promotes one big thing, all inclusive. That and not bullying. That flag was bullying to the children that were not in that group, and that flag was not all inclusive. And I'm ticked that that went up there. So every morning I went out there and I put this flag up and I flipped it back and forth and back and forth. And I said, this is for all, the straight children. Okay, so that now we're all inclusive. This is the straight pride flag. And I did this. And then I would turn it over and I would do this.
Hallelujah.
Right? Canada flag, which should be there. With God, all things are possible. So as the buses came in, as the parents didn't really understand what was going on at first, but they did afterward. Every morning I showed up with this and I would do this. And then I started getting honks and high fives and, thumbs up, and parents, kids rolling down the window, clapping, saying, thank you, miss, thank you, miss, wow. Thank you, miss. And all the school buses going by, all the windows down, sticking their thumbs out. Yes, thank you, we support you. And they would all be clapping when they got off the bus. And I would say, because I wasn't allowed to talk, according to the cops. I wasn't allowed to talk, but I would do this and I would do this. And people would go by yelling at me stupid things sometimes. And I would say, I love you. And that shocked them because they didn't want to hear me say that. So anyway, this is grassroots. So what I'm saying is please do something at a grassroots level. Don't take it, like Jeremy said, don't take it from here and go home and do nothing. Activate your friends, even one person at a time. Somebody said to me, oh, look at her, one all by yourself. Oh, and one guy commented and he said, that's how Rosa Parks started. So amen. There you go.
Can I ask the question?
Yes.
The pamphlet, is that only accessible to the teachers? That pamphlet?
Triangle rainbow one.
You can go on.
These here, we were able to get them on a website, this ETFO website. They come back to 12, right? I know that we only had like 10 here, but if you have cameras, and you're able to just take pictures of them and pass it on to someone else to take pictures of them, then everybody can get a copy for themselves. Or we have your email address. We have it scanned. And we can send it to you, the email addresses that are listed if you prefer. Okay.
I have another suggestion to get Christians that go to a church fired up to confront their pastors to start speaking out on it. I just can't imagine that anybody's even doing that now.
Like
About
going to the churches?
We'll share a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Jeremy's going to go through that at the end. But for me, I just want to say thank you to everybody for showing up today. And again, you know what? We started with a couple. And then we started with a couple. And it's growing. And this is the grassroots. You guys are part of the grassroots movement. And I appreciate you being here. With that, I want to introduce our next speaker, Selena Hamilton. Selena is somebody that's very, very passionate, as you'll see. She understands what's going on. She speaks from the heart. She puts a lot of time and effort into this. And she is passionate about the children and getting the truth out there. So with that, I want to introduce Selena Hamilton.
Thank you. She's on fire, huh?
Oh, yeah.
She joined us at the beginning of the year. She's been to the school board a couple times. She spoke to them. She addressed the discrimination inherent in this Pride agenda during June. She's also addressed them with their transparency, right? Getting answered out of them for any topic is nearly impossible. It's pulling teeth. So yeah, we're very grateful to have her. Just a little public service announcement. We're not having a break, but if the need arises, the washrooms are directly across the hall. The female is directly across this door. The male is just like 10 feet down that way. All right. All right, so I wanted to talk about MPAC, Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. Those of you who own your properties, you have your assessment, you pay your taxes, and this is something that can actually help when it comes to our Board of Trustees. You indicate through your impact form which board you wanted to support. And the default is the English Public School Board, which is the Greater Essex County District School Board. But there are a few other options, and you can select them as you see fit. So there's your public school board, there's your Catholic school board. I'm sure that most people are familiar with that. So there's your default for the English Public School Board. You also have a choice as the French Public School Board. There's the English Catholic and the French Catholic you can choose from. Now, when you select your school board, you are not choosing where the money goes, unfortunately. The Ontario government does that. It has everything to do with the math, the enrollment. The number of students gets the most money. But what you are doing is you are deciding what you're voting. Homeschool or come to Harvest or Maranatha, that would be fantastic. But they're feeling the pain, and I'm sure that they are the cause of it. During that same meeting, the Director of Education, Vicki Houston, she was questioned about their spend, 1.1 million. How much would be saved if they got rid of their basically GEI program? They don't call it DEI, they call it GIED, Justice, Inclusion, Equity, Diversity. They asked, well, if you were to just take that right off the table, how much is saved, and what does that entail? So she read for the public. It's you can see it on the YouTube video that this money, 1.1 million, is not funded by the provincial ministry. It includes one teacher consultant of equity, which costs them $126,000. They have one human rights and equity advisor, which costs $181,000. They have 5 create your future advisors. And then they have a section called supplies and services, which she broke down just a little bit. It includes the strings project, which is violin lessons in the class, and some of the summer camps that are going on. But it also includes a Black Educator Network, Black Joy Conference, additional qualifications and subsidies for dismantling anti-Black Semitism, and tutoring for specific marginalized individuals, and EAST membership and training. EAST means Equity Advocate Support Team. Now, what EAST is, it was recommended by the Turner Consulting Group. the Turner Consulting Group has a reputation. They composed these student census that went out last April, and it is from grade 1 to 8, and then grade 9 to 12. And both groups were asked about their gender identity, and the grade 9 to 12 were asked about their sexual orientation as well. And so, yeah, the parents were not happy about this, especially the high school students. They could fill it out by themselves. Allegedly, the ones in the elementary school had to have parent supervision, though I guess this year it didn't turn out that way. They told the parents it would happen one day, but they handed out the census the day prior. So this is the pamphlet. You can find it online if you Google. They're dismantling anti-Black racism. It's like 50 pages long. It's from 2022 to 2027. And they include in it, of course, in the beginning, the land acknowledgement that we're so used to hearing. But the next page they added, and I've never heard of it before, the Afrocentric land acknowledgement. And I'm going to read it to you. It's creative. The land was stolen from indigenous peoples, and enslaved Africans were brought en masse to build these cities. This is occupied indigenous territories of many nations, and these cities are built with stolen African labor and resources. One cannot be remembered without the other. We invite you into a tradition with us of acknowledging and remembering whose territory you are on, wherever you are in the Americas, from the north to the Caribbean to the south, and also remembering and acknowledging that these countries were built with stolen African and Black labor and resources as well. So that was adapted from Blackness Between Us Collective. So, you know, they are so driven, this Turner Consulting Group, to convince children that they are being abused and treated badly, and that racism is just rampant throughout the entire education system. But if they can't prove it in real time, I guess they have to go back and prove that, you know, it happened in the past. And they're suffering from that. So these are the current trustees. We have Nancy and Linda Qin with us today. The remainder are not exactly on our side on these issues. Many of you will be familiar with the gender expression policy, which is really how this all got started. It reads, there may be circumstances in which this student seeking accommodation is not open about their gender identity at home. A school should never disclose a student's gender identity, chosen name, and or pronouns to the student's parents or guardians without the student's explicit prior consent. When contacting home, the student should be consulted first to determine an appropriate way to reference the student's gender identity, chosen name, and or pronouns. This is true regardless of the age of the student. Regardless of the age, that means kindergarten, keeping secrets from parents, kindergarten students, you know, first you give them these inappropriate books, you convince them they're the wrong gender, and then you hide it from the parents. And that's pretty much what's going on. Yeah, we've been fighting this for a long time. It actually started in 2022, and we are ramping up, and we are increasing our numbers. So Jeremy is actually going to go through some of the events that have happened since 2022.
Oh, awesome. Good job.
All right. So as you can see, we got there's just 3 of us, but that's a strong team. We're fired up, and it's awesome. And we need more of that. And we know a lot of you are like that. We just want to show you and activate you to get involved. So yeah, we do have quite a timeline. So some of this precedes Action for Canada. So it has been a climb here. And we're trying to make that last step there. Kind of like that last. That's cute. But yeah, so it's been quite a road, but a good one. And sometimes the road, you know, the path looks a little torturous and winding, and we're tacking back and forth, but God has a plan. He has a destination in mind. So we're just going where we need to when we need to. So it started back December 6th of 22. There's a public meeting, and this was one of the first, really, and you can see the posters here, which they have since banned from the boardroom because they said no signs, posters, or placards. And that's partly why. So I think Linda asked for, she had a point of clarification that the idea was that wanted to see what these actually looked like. And so I don't think Chairperson Happy was too happy about that and kind of shoot her out of the center of the horseshoe there. But Fun Home and It's Perfectly Normal, a couple of books removed from the school library. So these books were in the school libraries, not these two, but there are other books in the school libraries. They're at the back there. We check them out. We've had them at the river. We've shown them multiple times to people. Like, these books exist. It's not a joke. When we were handing out flyers to some of the school boards, just to say to the parents, more so at the local schools, and I went to LaSalle Public, and the principal and the vice principal were there. And I showed up. I was in the parking lot. I said, "Well, you can ask me to leave if you want me to leave, but until then, I'm going to be right here." So I was on their parking lot, and so I had one of our volunteers with us, and we're handing them out. And I said, "You can't be here," and he said, "Oh, what are you handing out at first?" So I said, "Well, here's what we're handing out." Okay, fine. She turned around, went back, and she came out and she said that, you can't be here and that sort of thing. I said, "Well, but we are," kind of a thing. So they start the clock. LAPD shows up in about good response time. They showed up in about 10 minutes. I was like, wow. So the very nice officer, LaSalle police they're good folk. So rolled up and say, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, it's just handing these out. No big deal. We're just informing parents. We're not bill distributing. We're not collecting money. We're just informing people." I said, "Okay, so I know what you're doing." He said, "Well, have they asked you to leave?" I said, "No, they didn't ask me to leave." He said, "Okay, well, you're good." So he left. So then I just kind of hung out. And I was like, pretty much got to the end of our stack, and we were handing them out. And the volunteer people you're with, even me, you're like, oh, I gotta go. I have to confront somebody. There may be conflict. But once you're there, you get in the groove, and I think God gives you faith as you step out.
Yes.
Right? People like, "I want the power up now." It's like, this isn't a video game. That's not how it works. I'm just gonna hold the enter button. That's not what happens. Like, you have to actually go there, and then as you go, you are strengthened. So respond in faith, and then God will respond for you. So we were there, and then they came out again, and they said, "You have to leave." We called the police. "You can't be on our property. You can be on the sidewalk. That's public." I'm like, "Oh, true story. That's all right. I'm pretty much. They're all gone right now anyway, so we're done. But appreciate you." So we left, went off the property, and then came back. And I'm digressing because this is a fun story. But I came back, and so as I'm walking, I intentionally sort of zipped up my jacket, and I'm just walking towards their front doors. During left, I could just walk home. So as I get to the front doors, the part where it forks, so that I can actually walk home, out from the front doors come the principal and the vice principal marching at me. And I was like, "Oh, you want to chat?" And so they come out, and they're like, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, you can't be here. Are you done?" I said, "No, that's okay. I'm all done." I said, "But do you realize that these books are in your school?" "No, they're not." I said, "Excuse me?" I'm like, "They're in your school." I said, No, they're not. I said, Destiny Online Library, I encourage you to go use the resource that you have at your disposal, just like all the school board has. You can look up the books yourselves. You can go to booklooks.org, and you can look up the actual review on the book. It'll show you the text, the images, and all the rest of it. These books are in your school. I said, "You're not fooling me." I said, "Maybe you fooled yourself." But I was like, "Have a nice day." I said, and so then we just kind of parted ways, and and that's what it was. But those type of interactions are what hopefully, maybe they were a little upset with me, and that's okay. But hopefully they'll want to go home and try to prove me wrong. And that's exactly what I want them to do, is try and prove me wrong. Because in the process, you're going to show that you're going to see we have the truth on our side.
Yes.
So, I'll get back on track here. Seems going to throw a coffee at me in a second. So this is 22. But so you can see there's a few of our allies here. That's Patsy Cope is speaking. Some of you might know her from the Freedom Movement and all that. She's very vocal. And there's a lot of good representation. And so these two books did get removed, but then after that, it stopped. All of a sudden, it just ended, and the responsiveness just degraded. And to the point, all of a sudden, we became the enemy. And we're actually here to help. We're Ontarians who you are accountable to, parents. It could be aunt, uncle. You could be living on your own single. They need to listen to you if you have feedback. So in any case, it was good that these two books were removed. But then as we went on into 23, these are more. So there's Elton Robinson. He started Parents for Parents' Rights, which we were involved with. And then he's continuing. And then we went more on to Action for Canada. It's a bit of a a broader audience and more issues. But you can see here what was spoken on. This is January 17th of 2023, so some time ago, obviously. And so you see bullying, gender identity expression policy. Then there was police presidents programs. They want to cancel the police out of the schools, which Ron LeClaire is actually a retired policeman. I don't think he's too keen on that. So actually, interesting little dynamic there. But why are the police the enemy? Like that, why are you setting it up that way? And then advocacy and parents' rights. So, you know, obviously 4 speakers, excellent topics. So it's not new to them, right? This is January 17th of 23. So then there's another public meeting on the 23rd, and this is just speaking about parents being first and foremost. And that was me with back when we could actually stand closer to the trustees before we got I guess disciplined to go to the back of the rooms. But so this is just saying, you know, your priority and who has the authority over children are parents. Parents, God, they are appointed by God to train children up in His ways. But in the end, whether they're doing an excellent job, struggling, it's the parents who have the authority over the child. Just because they cross the threshold of the school doesn't mean that the parent gives up that authority. They always have that authority. That is a God-given authority. The school board, the Ministry of Education, any public official, they do not have the authority over those children, and they need to listen to us. So that's what that was about. And then there was a Linda Qin, there was a defense against Ron LeClaire bullying. So I think the motioning there is, sorry, Linda, to bring back bad memories, but was saying, you know, either he was basically cutting her off and saying either, you know, stop talking or get out of the room. And that's not his job. Linda's there representing her constituents. None of them have the authority to shut each other up. Now, they have to maintain order in the room. There has to be decorum and respect, and you're not supposed to interrupt or disrupt. That's true, and there needs to be that done in a real way, because this is a boardroom, and they do need to conduct business there. So that is something that we need to respect. It's difficult to do sometimes. I can attest to that. I've been in there, and it's infuriating how some of these people actually behave. But he was acting actually as chairperson on that day. So, but I wanted to speak on Linda's behalf because nobody really was. I was like, how dare you bully her? You know, and so if this is happening publicly, you can imagine what's happening privately. And unfortunately, Linda was subjected to that, but she still stands in there, as well as Nancy, trying to do their best to represent on this board of 10, and there's 2, but maybe that's all God needs, right? So then May 16th of 23, Linda had put forward a motion for an ad hoc book review committee, just saying, how about we just have a look? How about we just get a group of people together, dive into Destiny Online Library, and see what's going on? And one of the simple requests we had, which if you go to booklooks.org, they actually added this feature, was new releases for the month. What are the new books that you've shipped down from Toronto for us? Thank you very much. You know, and if you talk to librarians and teachers, they'll say, yeah, a box arrives and we're supposed to put them on our shelves. But the good librarians and teachers say they do not do that. So we're not going to share names. But the fact of the matter is that there's a lot of teachers out there who know these are not good for children. And so they are the last line of defense. But as public representatives, we are appealing to our trustees to have oversight over this process. So that was an excellent motion that should have been acted upon, but wasn't. Because if this many people are complaining about it, where there's smoke, there's fire. I mean, have a look, do your due diligence. We're not saying that you have to like completely upend the thing and tear it all down, but there are things that you can do to improve that process. And don't make us go like Selena had done to the principal and each and every school, and what books do you have in this school all across the county? That's ridiculous. Cut the head of the snake off and just clean the whole process out. So it can be done, but there needs to be a concerted effort. So this wasn't acted upon, but it needed to be highlighted. So that's why I spoke on that day. The Jericho Walk, some of you were at. So this is a public meeting. We were closed by the trustees. So all those meetings sort of left to the point where, like, we don't want you in here. And I'll admit, some of those meetings got lively. But if you cut my mic and I got something to say, I'm going to use my outside voice. You're going to hear it anyways. because you are here to listen to us. That is your job. The children, the parents, the Ontario public, we don't exist for the school board. The school board exists for us. They have that wrong. They think it's their world and we're living in it, but it's our world they're living in.
Yes.
So we need to act that way.
Yes.
So this happened, and this is an eventful day. You can see it. There's my pastor, Chris. So it's awesome. Our pastor from Harvest was with me that day, encouraging me and filling me, saying, "You're doing a good job. Keep going." That's me on the mic. These are our Rainbow Vikings. Yeah, a bunch of grown men doing cosplay in front of the school board. But anyway, so they were there just to disrupt us, and I believe they were hired help. This made no sense whatsoever. So they were playing music loud, and they were literally screaming at us. I'm like, so I called timeout. I said, "Excuse me." I said, "Guys and gals, just hold on. Can you put your shields down for a second?" Yeah, they have rainbow socks on and everything. I was like, "I'm trying to respect you, but it's difficult right now." so I was like, "Time out." I said, "We're here to freely express ourselves according to the Charter of Rights and Freedom, right? It's a Canadian thing. So if they're actually excusing themselves, if you want to leave the door open, that's okay, because people can filter in if they want." So they were getting in our faces, literally, and it wasn't going to go physical. I didn't believe it was. I wasn't in any way threatened by these clowns. But, the way they were behaving, and if it was just, now I'm speaking to the men in the room right now, if it was just women there that day, they would have been intimidated by these jerks, these bullies. So we need men on site.
Yes.
We need
Yes.
the bull elephants in the room. We need to be there. So I didn't mind going up against this schmuck or that schmuck. It's like, you want, like, we'll deal with you. So what ended up happening is I said, "Excuse me, can we're here to freely express ourselves. You're here to freely express yourselves. You know what? This is our protest." We were there more making a statement because Action for Canada doesn't actually do protests, to clarify, but we were kicked out of the room. So we had our own meeting outside of the school board. That's really the way we would communicate that. We don't do F2 flags. We try to keep it clean because we want everybody across the county to join us. We want to set that standard. So anyway, we were out there. I said, we'll say what we want to say, and then you're going to say what you want to say, and we'll open the floor up like that. This is Canada. Let's do that. And they looked at each other, and they looked back, and they just started screaming again, berserker mode. And I'm like, "What is wrong with you people?" And they like, "Crank the music." So they started jamming death metal. I'm like, "What?" So I said, "Okay, it's on." So I had a microphone. We had the amp speaker there, and I had the bullhorn in addition, and a bunch of people around me encouraging me. So for about 5 minutes, I was screaming at the Rainbow Vikings, and I was sweating and shaking by the end. That was all of what I had, and I've been out there. I've played football. I can turn up the volume, and it was legit. It was pretty good. I don't mind that stuff. Like, it actually kind of energized me in a way. I wouldn't say it's the most productive sometimes because we don't just want to make headbutting. But if that's all we got, then we'll use what we have at our disposal. And that's what happened that day. Then we had the 1 Million March for Kids, and you can see some of our freedom friends here. There's Carrie Jones there holding the flag. And so we were given the streets on this day. And so we're marching towards 451 Park Street. When we got to 451 Park Street, I stood up there and I looked down the street, and all I could see was heads and shoulders filling the street. And so I was like, so I ran to the front. I was like, "Harry, where's the bullhorn?" She's like, "I don't know. I think Stephen. I don't know. Who has it? I don't know." I was like, "Stephen has one." So I was like, "I'm gonna go find Stephen." So I went running down the park, down Ouellette, and I'm like, how long is this line? So I finally get to the back, and I'm like, "Stephen, can I play board?" He's like, "Precious." And I'm like, "I'll treat her well." So he handed it over. So I went hustling to the back, trying not to sweat like big, and got in the front. And then people were coming up. These kids were coming up, and they're like, "I use it." I'm like, "Okay, keep it clean." Some didn't, but it's okay. It is a free speech thing. I'd rather people try, fail, get better next time than not try at all, right? So we would rather you go out there and say something. It's a bit messy, doesn't turn out. We're not all charismatic speakers like Donald Trump who could just go on for an hour and a half and light the whole crowd up, right? That's
okay, it doesn't matter. Speak plainly, speak how you speak. You know, use the word that God gives you. And so there's multiple authors in the Bible, you know, and they're all, the message is consistent, but those stories are all in the gospel, perhaps shared a little bit differently, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and throughout the Bible. So it's okay that we all speak as individuals and how we speak. And actually that's, I think, one of the things about God's creation. So this was awesome. And so Scott Nugent was here, and you'll see the next slide. He's actually in that photo. He's from Texas. He flew here. He's a trans man. So was a woman, was trying to become a man, actually realized he shortened his life in doing so. He's on cross-sex hormones, drug therapy. He had surgeries. He showed us his forearm. What they were trying to do, they butchered his forearm to try and make him more male. We'll just leave it at that. And unfortunately, he realizes that he's actually now just accelerated, you know, his dying process. He's actually, and he has children. So really, because it was in her 40s that she went to, well, let's say Scott. Scott went to the psychologist and is struggling in some ways. And basically, the psychologist said, "How long you been dressing like a man?" Because Scott was wearing a pantsuit that day. And so then that scrambled his brains and started this process. But then years later, realized he's slowly killing himself by doing this. And so, what chance does a kid of 8 have if they plant this garbage in their head? They're going to scramble their brains. By the time they're 20, they're going to want to sue everybody who put them in that situation because now they can't relate to anybody. They're like a 99.999 percentile person who can relate to somebody who's maybe half developed, been butchered. It's awful what they're doing, and who's there to pick up the pieces? Not the school board, right? Not the government. Exactly. They would probably want to just say, "Are you depressed? Because now we'll kill you." So it's a sick process, but it is disgustingly organized as well. And these people, a lot of them too, come from the alphabet soup group. No disrespect intended, but I'm sorry, that is the acronym from hell as far as I'm concerned. So, because I don't believe in it. I believe that we were created male and female. Genesis 2 is quite clear about that. And so if anybody, a pastor or anybody says we need to respect this acronym, that the acronym itself is a lie. Now, does homosexuality exist? Yes, I would agree with that. But the idea that people can have this many options is a lie. And so I'm not going to perpetuate that lie by using their acronym. So that's where I stand on that. But it was an awesome day. It was a huge event. There was a little bit of a thing that was happening outside of the St. Clair College for the Arts where there was counter protesters there. I felt sorry for them. There was actually maybe, I don't know, 20, a couple dozen, if that. But then there's some of the groups, some of the younger youth, some of, we'll just say certain background, they were pushing in on them. So I actually jumped in there and said, "We're not doing this today because you guys are trying to make the wrong headlines." So he's like, go down the river, have some barbecue, and let's just chill out. So then this is the next day we went to Easter Flavors, and you can see there's Scott Nugent, top left, Pierre Barnes. So he is Scream Louder from Texas. So if you look up Scott Nugent, you will find some. So what it was is, now I don't necessarily agree with his lifestyle or where he may be at in terms of worldview, but I want to hear his story. Because this story is real. The damage is real. And this is what they're doing to children. So again, if a full-grown adult can be fooled by this, careful for your kids. Pierre Barnes, he actually has a database. You can search all school boards across Canada, and he will give you books. So there's like over 300 books in our area that his list will actually output. Now, it's true, not all those books, some of those books are mishits, but in general, it's a really good list. Then Shannon Boucher, he was doing basically, he's a research analyst, and he wrote some algorithms to look up. Now, how many more mentions are there of transgender, of woke, of all these different DEI, CRT? And so you just see how everything is ramped up in the past 3 to 5 years or whatever. And the point being is that they talk about it like this is, wow, we should have been doing this the whole time. But that's not the truth. The truth is it's relatively new. And it's a corruption of God's creation. But these are people who are putting data behind that. And then same thing here, Melanie Benet, she actually had a really good, she strung together how the government's involved. So I would say if you want to go look her up, you can see some of the globalist movement behind this and how they are trying to you guys might be familiar with these words, penetrate your cabinet.
Mhm.
So she can explain that to you a little bit too. But SOGI is sexual orientation and gender identity, right? So again, another acronym of nonsense. And yeah, but then you see PRCOC. So here are some of the larger groups. And then that's your, when we're doing, well, PFPR still exists, it's still ongoing. And yeah, so this is was a really good event. They spoke, we're very well attended. It was closed off because we wanted teachers and anybody who maybe didn't want to be known to the public. We were afraid that people were going to come up and actually try to get them on camera, make them lose their jobs. That's where they'll go. They have no shame. They're like, you should use your job because you disagree with me. Well, what happened to tolerance and acceptance? I thought we're supposed to tolerate and accept each other. Well, if you do what I do, we will tolerate and accept you. But if you in any way dissent, here comes a hammer. So, oh, nice choice. Yeah, so this is October 3rd, 23. So TSC or TSG, Trend Consulting Group. So that census was woke as broke from beginning. They're asking kids about their, so what are your preferences sexually, relationally? Like, what kind of questions are these? So in the K to 8, they would send it home for the parents, but in the 9 to 12, the kids could just do it right there in the school, fill out this survey. It was an awful survey. Called them out hardcore on this. And what you can see the security guards laughing. So somebody had mentioned to me after, so I said, the security guard was laughing at something you said or whatever. He kind of got a chuckle. I said, oh. And I said, it was after you said DEI, the actual acronym. So they say DEI is diversity, equity, inclusion. But I said, no. I said, you know what DEI is, the way you practice it, is discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination. So after I said that, he laughed. And these are the security guards they brought in to try and tame us, the wild ones. So after the meeting, I went up to him and I said, I was going to walk out. I gotta go say hi to this guy. So I went back and I went inside. I saw you laugh during my speech. He said, no. He said, I liked your speech. I said, I'm on your side. I said, oh, awesome. I said, was it after the DEI thing? He's like, yeah, I was good. I said, fist bump, peace out. And so it just shows they try to continue to attack us, try to use whatever legal forces they can find against us. They want police to be in that room, some of them. They try to put up barriers. We're not a threat. I don't know of any, I'm not saying they're not receiving threats, some of the trustees, but as far as when we've gone there, we've never expressed anything in terms of any type of violence or threats of any kind. We have definitely threatened their hold on power because we disagree with them and we bring the truth with us. They don't want that. I've been on the campaign trail. I know what it's like. As soon as somebody sees the truth coming, they're closing doors, they're tearing up your flyer, they're running away because they don't want you to burst their bubble. And that's exactly what's happening. Cut mic, cut mic, cut mic. So that's what that was. But then I guess the kicker after this was TSG, the president came on right after me. So I tore their group a new one. And then the president gets on the phone remotely to call in and to review the survey. It was great. It was a great timing. I didn't know they were going to do that. But they're from Toronto. I don't know why we need somebody from Toronto to do our surveys for us. I mean, I can guess why. Maybe it says capital woke. But so then here we have so we did a prayer walk recently and another public meeting on the 16th where we were able to speak. So again, we're just trying to ram it home that parents are in charge. We want transparency. We want you to actually work with us. And we want to work with you. It doesn't have to be always just conflict with you. It doesn't have to be that way. It's not supposed to be that way. So it got to the point where we wanted to mail notices of liability, and people were asking for this. People will say, well, what is a notice of liability? Well, we're putting you on notice that you are potentially breaking the law. And so it's in itself, it's not a legal action, but it is a legal notice. So if they were to actually do something where, let's say a child or a parent were to say, you hurt me, you harmed me in some way, then now the trustees cannot say that they do not know. We have put it down in clear black and white in writing with evidence. Selena put it together. I added that as attachments for them to understand you are doing this. We know you're doing this, and that was put in recently, I guess, well, I won't fast forward to it just yet. Well, maybe I will. So when Brian McLeod started writing articles at the very end of it, I said, they have been told in no uncertain terms that they're distributing child pornography to minors. And that's my personal opinion. And I can state that all I want. And I'm not saying I'm a lawyer. I'm not saying I'm going to sue you, but I'm saying that's what I think you're doing. And so, and child pornography is both verbal and it can also be visual, right? So written or visual, like images. And we've seen that in the books. That has happened. And right now it's mostly, we would say, written, but also these little cartoonized characters. I mean, for a child and their minds, things that they don't like, we as adults can conceive things and understand things. But think of it as a child, if you can think back to when you were trying to understand the world around you and things, you come up with the craziest harebrained ideas, right? You just had no idea. You're a kid. And that's actually fun and funny to watch. Pastor Aaron's talked about that at times, where the kids wake up, they're like, side, you know, they just they wake up babbling. They're like, oh, you want to go outside? They wake up, they're ready to go. That's all that's on their minds. But then we introduce this smut and this filth into their heads, and we expect them to think clearly and to actually to uphold the confidence of the public, but also for student achievement. And the parents are wondering why the kids are coming home upset. Right? This is why. This is why. So you can see from WHO, SOGI, and then WEF, they want to sexualize children. When they say we're coming after your children, we can scoff and just say, give me a break. You know, you can't be serious. I think you need to take them at their word. They are coming after your children, our children. And whether that's my child that I see on the street, if I see that child in danger of a big dog or a white van that looks totally sus on the side of the road, I'm stepping in. But because it happens inside the walls of a school, it's okay? Not at all. And so we need to intervene and intercede and actually interpose, right? That means you're putting yourself in between the threat and the child. So another prayer walk and public meeting on May 21st, where we went and spoke. And so again, good turnout and sharing the truth with the school board at 451 Park Street. And then here's the follow-up notices of liabilities to the trustees. Well chosen, Selena. Are you there? I think the answer is no. Or actually we are, but we're not answering. It's just like, you know, you're at home, it's like, there's a solicitor at the door. It's like, no, it's actually parents and concerned Ontarians. Yeah. So we sent a follow-up notice of the NOLs. And so and that's part of the process. Action for Canada actually wrote that out. So then here on June 18th, we went to speak about, you see Rob, Selena, and myself, about board transparency, the OESC board professional development, as well as board governance and bylaws. So I actually brought the bylaw with me because I was like, do you understand what it says in here about speakers? And because they were cutting our mics, and people can agree, disagree, but if I go up there as a speaker and you say, pick a topic, I say, okay, I'll pick a topic. I pick a topic, I'm going to speak on that topic how I please. Now, because I start talking about that topic the way you don't want me to talk about it, and then you cut my mic, that's not cool. So if I go off on a tangent, however I'm talking, I've chosen the topic. I am the speaker. And we've seen other speakers be very well received, talk about the RISE program and tiers. They don't want that cut from the budget. That's all fine and dandy. They start telling their personal stories. But if I start talking about how I teach Harvest kids, if I'm in the room and if a child brings up a topic that I believe to be inappropriate, not inappropriate just as to talk about, but inappropriate for the classroom. And I said, I don't know if some kids in this room are actually able to process that information. I'll say, you know what the best thing to do is go talk to your parents. So as soon as I would use the words, I actually was quoting the one time the Education Act, and then I was saying uphold the public confidence, or if I say age inappropriate, boom, cut mic. They know where we're going. They know what we're saying. They see it coming. They don't want their bubble burst. They don't want to be exposed. That's my take on it. And I think other people have seen this. But then on June 25th, this was a special meeting for Linda Qin, and where it's basically kangaroo court. It was an awful thing. We're going to let Linda and Nancy can comment on it to whatever extent possible. So just so you guys understand too, if you're on a board in general, but definitely applies to our public school board, that if a motion is passed then technically it cannot be criticized by the trustees, the members of that board. Because the motion is passed, then maybe you can take future action on that motion if you want to come back and revisit it. But that's just something where we're going to be very careful on how we speak to Linda and Nancy. We don't want them to be, put them in a tight situation, but we want them to talk about what they want to talk about, what they believe their priorities are. So this is regarding board sanctions on Trustee Linda Qin. We showed up 40 to 50 in the gallery as people online, and they started just lobbing grenades, throwing darts, shooting bullets at Linda, telling her about how bad of a trustee she is. And I'm like, well, but any company I've ever been a part of, or any organization or group, any way I would run it, is say if somebody's struggling, I'm gonna try to help you. I'm gonna try to help you. I'm gonna try to train you up and equip you so you can do your job better. And that would benefit the entire school board. Instead, they attack her. And this isn't the first time. It's the second time, right, Linda?
Yeah, second time.
Second time from they've done it in the past.
Yeah, 4 years ago.
Right. And so Linda can speak to that a little bit more. But in the end, at this meeting, the reason Dave Menzies was there from Rebel is because it was that interview that he had requested and then Linda had shared. And so they started drilling down. There was a few that they technically, the lawyer said, I think out of 9 total, because there was 4 people who issued complaints, but there was a bunch of sub-complaints within the complaints. And I was like, can you people just stop? You are actually guilty of a lot of these things that you were accusing Linda of, for real. And the lawyer found that it was unsupportable for her in a lot of these. But 2 of them, they said, okay, maybe you should gotta be careful when you talk to Rebel News. And if somebody gets upset on a committee, they made note of that. But in the end, bottom line, they actually said unsupportable in a lot of them. And that's why a lot of the trustees actually, they withdrew their complaints, which actually would mean they had to say, and I think Chairperson Hatfield could have been more helpful in helping people understand what this meant, because Kathy Cook was trying to actually do that over the phone. And she said, well, you can't just withdraw a complaint. It's like, well, I'm trying to. What Claire just did. What's going on? You have to have a motion for this, for it to not be a breach, whatever the complaint was. So that's technically really the way that it had to be done. So there is a way to actually, Robert's rules, there's a way to actually run the meeting, and that's what is being done. So help the trustees. Stop hindering them, or worse, attacking them. So they told us the reason the police was there. Trustee Burgess started saying some things. She felt sorry for herself, as opposed to Linda, because some of the things that Linda had said. So then some people in the gallery are like, come on, like seriously, like why you want us to shed tears over you? You want us to feel sorry about you, and you're attacking Linda? And really, that type of bullying affects both of them. It affects all trustees. Because and there's one man on that board, and let's just be real. He's ex-police, he's Ron LeClaire. And to say that he is influential and even intimidating at times, I think would be naive. So he's saying what, in a way, he's setting the tone a lot of times. I can see it in the meetings when he's signaling. So anyway, long story short, Chairperson Hatfield said one more word and we're going to clear the gallery. So then there was definitely one more word. And so then she said clear the gallery. And so then what happened was then the people in the gallery said no, and just in my defense, I was sitting at the back with a friend who came in late, so I wasn't. But at that point, I was like, these people need to understand that they can't just clear the gallery. That's not how it's written. So the police came in and said, okay, y'all got to go. It's like, well, actually, no. Education Act Section 212 and the bylaw Section 970 actually says that you have to deal with the individuals who are causing who are disrupting or interrupting. You have to actually tell them, will you retract your statement, or maintain decorum in the room? If you will, then you have to leave. And so she did, in a sense, give that warning, but you have to call out those people, because not everybody was causing trouble. There was a few people who spoke up, and it's true. And it was the gallery was upset, rightfully so. And she didn't say immediately, there was some feedback. I'm not going to say that she didn't allow for some. But in the end, that's what he was trying to say. I said, well, you're up to uphold the law. This is what the law says. I said, if you actually go and ask all those trustees, it's my interpretation of it anyways, and he didn't refute it. So it couldn't have been too far off. So I said, why don't you just go back and ask all those trustees if they actually have a problem, or Chairperson Hatfield, who actually told us that we had to clear the gallery, to identify the person or persons who are causing the disruption or the interruption, Ask them if they want to retract that statement or to actually maintain decorum. If they will not do that, then they have to go. But please go have them be identified. Okay, so he left. That bought us some time. And so then we had Rebel News. Yeah, then all of a sudden people started showing up because 7 cruisers showed up. 7 cruisers, and the room was filled with police. So, domestic terrorists in the room. So they showed up, and then we just said, hey, this is what we're here for, and we're here to support Linda. We're here to support her. We're not here to support, and that's the thing too, is like, don't you realize that you have like 40, 50, whatever people in the room? We're not here to support you. We're here to support Linda. So you call us a fringe minority. You say that she's a fringe minority, but you don't have anybody here supporting you and your woke garbage. Like, hello. So that's actually the reality of the situation. So it was interesting, but then CBC, CTV, AM 800 all showed up, and Brian McLeod wrote some really good articles. He asked Linda and I, or Selena and I, for our speeches on I think it was it the June 18th one?
21st.
Yeah, it was a prior meeting where we had spoke. We got Mike Scott, and then that's what he put. He was just quoting us in the paper, but it upset Chairperson Hatfield so bad she called the Windsor Star, her and her husband Percy Hatfield, who's ex-MVP, MPB, right? They called and said, you can't print that, or you print that. They were very upset. We'll just put it that way. That's my understanding. I talked to Brian a little bit, but nothing was done. And Brian has since written some articles, so we're like, keep going. So it was in the end. So this is where some people ask. I guess long story short, people ask, why do you do what you do? Why do you actually bother going to the school board? They hate you. They don't want you there. They don't want to listen to you. They cut your mics. They mistreat you. They disrespect you. I was like, well, because in time, this happens. And so they think they're actually building this pipe bomb against us, but it's blowing up in their face every single time. And we're like, keep going. Because evil knows no boundaries. Good knows boundaries. We know where to stay, right? A fish out of water is dead. Patrick Chris's is one of my favorites for describing healthy boundaries, right? And God sets healthy boundaries, but evil doesn't know boundaries. That snake eats its own tail. So I'm like, keep going. Keep talking. That's why we have freedom of speech, is because then the fool speaks and the wise corrects them. And so we're saying, keep talking stupid, because we're exposing you in the paper, on the radio, on TV, and we don't mind it. So, but we didn't ask for this. We couldn't ask for this type of publicity. If Rob and Selena and I went to any of these news sources and said, hey, would you mind, printing this or covering this in the news? Or they'd be like, man, they wouldn't even say hello. But when this happened, all of a sudden, 7 cruisers show up. It's like, you can't get enough. And so we're not asking for it, but we are fighting. And sometimes it's messy. Sometimes there's things that we can do better. Totally understand that. We're improving ourselves as we go to. We're not here to be arrogant and pretend like we have it all, the entire thing figured out. But we know there's wrong happening and it needs to be righted. And so that's enough for us to keep going. And we hope that other people will come alongside with us too. So 2024 and beyond. So we're saying stay tuned. There's more to come. In September, we're going back. We're not going to be denied, and we are going to keep speaking. We're going to keep, defending the rights of parents and children to this school board who does not understand their job. They do not understand what they are there for. And Gail Hatfield, Chairperson Hatfield, and Trustee Burgess have been in these jobs for decades. Decades. They need to be purged. They need to be cleared out. And so as Christians, we pray for them. Yes, we do desire their salvation. We do desire that they actually find truth, act on it, receive Christ as Savior. We're all for that. But in the meantime, get out. Get out. We don't want you in here. So, if it happens while they're in there, and that's even better. I'd love to see that. Yeah. But because suddenly you would have an overnight change, and it would be unmistakable. So we can pray for that. So we can pray for them to, on one hand, to be saved. On the other hand, to get out of office. And if somehow God redeems the board and starts there to be more allies alongside Nancy and Linda, we definitely would love to see that. But this is our timeline. This is where we're at. This is where we came from, and where we're at, and where we're going. We have more to do. And Linda and I think Nancy, they have more to do. They have a lot that's on their minds as well. So we actually have some Q&A with them. So if Linda and Nancy, if you guys would mind coming up, I think, and if either of you wants, Ooh, boy.
If you can put your cameras down for now, let me just get through what I want to say. Because Linda got in a lot of trouble because it was media. But I received this from Trustee Hatfield on something that I was not allowed to complain about because I use social media. So I want to get more clarification. Where was